Have you ever felt someone dim your light without saying a word? Their presence alone clouds your clarity, drains your calm, disturbs something deep inside you. You try so hard to stay patient, to be understanding, but inside, you're unraveling. You're not imagining it. You're not too sensitive. You're awake. Learning to protect your peace isn't selfish. It's sacred. The Buddha knew this 2,500 years ago. Today, you're going to discover 12 ancient teachings, intelligent, compassionate, transformative, that show you exactly how to handle difficult people without losing yourself. Let me show you where this wisdom was born. A monastery in the mountains, morning mist. A young monk, trembling, stands before his master. Someone here mocks me, interrupts me, wounds me with his words. Every time I see him, I lose my peace. Master, what do I do? The teacher asks one question. If someone offers you a gift and you refuse it, who does the gift belong to? To the one who offered it. The master nods. The same with insults, cruelty, every cutting word. If you don't accept them, they remain with the giver. What you don't accept cannot harm you. This is the first key. Let's unlock the rest. Picture this. You're in a coffee shop, morning light streaming through the windows. The barista, tired, overwhelmed, snaps at a customer for asking a simple question. Or maybe you're at a family dinner. A relative makes a cutting remark about your choices, your life, your path. Or it's just an email, cold, harsh, unnecessary in its tone. Your chest tightens. That familiar voice inside whispers, "What did I do wrong?" This is where most of us live. In that question, in that tightness. But the Buddha taught something that shatters this pattern completely. He called it anatta, one of the 3 marks of existence that define all experience. While most translate it as non-self, its implications go far deeper than that simple phrase suggests. 2,500 years ago, the Buddha sat beneath the Bodhi tree and saw through the illusion that binds most people their entire lives, the illusion that we are separate, solid, permanent selves. And within this profound insight lies a truth that will set you free from taking anything personally. When someone lashes out, criticizes, judges, or wounds you with their words, they're not responding to who you actually are. They're responding to their own mind state, their own suffering, their own inner turbulence. You are not the cause of their storm. You simply witnessed it. Let that settle for a moment. Think of it this way. A tree doesn't take it personally when the wind bends its branches. The tree stands, The wind passes, neither changed by the other's nature. The Buddha said, "When you realize nothing is lacking, the whole world belongs to you." This isn't about having everything. It's about understanding that external reactions don't define your worth, because there is no fixed you to define in the first place. So why do we take things so personally? The ego, that constructed sense of self, seeks constant validation. It fears rejection, like a plant fears drought. We've been conditioned since childhood to believe we're responsible for others' emotions. If someone's angry, we must have caused it. If someone's disappointed, we must fix it. This belief creates a prison with invisible bars. We carry the weight of others' reactions as if they were stones we must hold forever. But anatta teaches us something liberating. These reactions belong to the person experiencing them, not to you. In the Anatta Lakkhana Sutta, the Buddha taught his first 5 disciples about non-self, using the example of the body. He asked them, if the body were truly yours, could you command it never to age, never to sicken, never to die? Of course not. The body follows its own nature. The same is true for others' minds. Their thoughts, reactions, and emotions follow their own conditioning, their own karma, their own patterns. You can't control them any more than you can command your body not to age. Right now, wherever you are, think of something someone said that hurt. A criticism, a judgment, a dismissal. Feel where it lives in your body. Maybe it's tightness in your chest. Maybe it's a knot in your stomach. Maybe it's tension in your shoulders. Now ask yourself, what if their words had nothing to do with who I actually am? What if their reaction was shaped by their childhood wounds, their current stresses, their own fears and insecurities? What if it was their pain speaking, not truth about you? Notice what happens when you ask this. Notice the space that opens. A little breathing room where there was only tightness before. This is the beginning of freedom through anatta. Let me tell you about a woman named Sarah. She worked in an office where her boss criticized everything she did. Every report was wrong. Every presentation needed fixing. Every idea was insufficient. For months, Sarah carried this home. She questioned her abilities. She lost sleep replaying conversations. She felt smaller and smaller with each passing day. The weight of his disapproval became the lens through which she saw herself. If he said she was inadequate, maybe she was. If he said her work was subpar, maybe it was. His perception became her reality. Then one afternoon, she overheard a conversation in the break room. Her boss's marriage was falling apart. His teenage daughter had stopped speaking to him. He was drowning in debt he couldn't discuss with anyone. The company board was questioning his leadership. The next time he criticized her work, something was different. The same harsh words, the same dismissive tone, but Sarah's experience had completely transformed. She saw a man in pain, lashing out at the nearest target. Not because she deserved it, but because pain doesn't discriminate in where it lands. His criticism wasn't about her work, it was about his life falling apart. His harsh words weren't evaluations of her worth, they were expressions of his suffering. Her peace returned that day, not because he changed, but because her understanding of anatta deepened. She still received his feedback professionally. She still made improvements where genuinely needed, but she stopped absorbing his pain as if it were truth about her. This is the practice of anatta in daily life. When criticism comes, pause. Take one breath, then silently recognize this is about their mind, state, not about who I am. You're not dismissing valid feedback. You're not avoiding growth. You're simply refusing to carry weight that was never yours to hold. Notice the space that opens when you do this. Notice how your shoulders drop. Notice how the criticism loses its power to define you. In Zen monasteries, monks are taught to observe thoughts like clouds passing through the sky. The sky doesn't chase the clouds. It doesn't hold them or push them away. It simply allows them to pass through its vast, unchanging space. You can be the sky. And other people's storms? They're just weather, moving through. The Dhammapada says, all that we are is the result of what we have thought. The mind is everything. What we think, we become. This applies not just to you, but to everyone. What they think creates their reality, their reactions, their words. And their reality is not your reality. The next time someone's reaction feels personal, remember their behavior is a window into their inner world, not a mirror of your worth. The person who snaps at the barista, probably carrying exhaustion from caring for a sick parent through sleepless nights. The relative who criticizes your life choices, often wrestling with regret over their own unfulfilled dreams. The harsh email from a colleague, written by someone who learned early that kindness equals weakness. None of it is about you. All of it is about them. And when you truly understand anatta, not just intellectually, but in your bones, you become unshakable. Not because you've built walls, not because you've stopped caring, but because you finally understand what's yours to carry and what isn't. Consider this: every person you encounter is carrying their own history, their own wounds, their own conditioning, their own karma ripening in this moment. When they react to you, they're really reacting to the confluence of countless causes and conditions, most of which have nothing to do with you. A meditation teacher once said, When someone throws mud at you, remember, the mud was already in their hand. You didn't put it there. This is anatta in action. This is freedom from taking things personally. Practice this today. When someone's words sting, pause and ask, is this really about me or about them? 9 times out of 10, it's about them. And in that recognition, you find your peace. The teaching of anatta doesn't make you cold or uncaring. It makes you free. Free to respond with wisdom instead of wounding. Free to help when appropriate, without absorbing others' suffering as your own. This is the first foundation, the first teaching, the first liberation. Understanding anatta means understanding that what happens to you is not always about you. And in that understanding, you reclaim your peace. Before the difficult meeting, your stomach tightens. Before the challenging conversation, your heart races. Before encountering that person who always disturbs your peace, you find yourself bracing, shoulders up, jaw clenched, armor on, ready for battle. We've all stood in this space of anticipation and dread. Most of us think protection means building walls, hardening ourselves, creating emotional distance, preparing for combat. But the Buddha taught something that seems, at first, completely backwards. He taught metta bhavana, the systematic cultivation of loving kindness. And he taught it not as a nice idea for peaceful moments, but as the ultimate form of protection in hostile ones. This is the second ancient teaching, and it might be the most misunderstood. How can softness protect you? How can love be armor? How can cultivating kindness toward difficult people keep you safe? The answer lies in understanding what actually harms us. It's not others' words that wound us most deeply. It's our own reactive mind states. Anger, fear, hatred, resentment. These are the true enemies. They eat us from the inside. Metta bhavana protects you by transforming your inner landscape so thoroughly that toxic seeds can't take root there. Let me share one of the Buddha's most challenging teachings. In the Kakakupama Sutta, the discourse on the simile of the saw, the Buddha told his monks something that shocked them. He said, even if bandits were severing you limb from limb with a two-handled saw, if you gave rise to a mind of hate, you would not be carrying out my teaching. The monks sat in stunned silence. He continued, you should train yourselves. Our minds will remain unaffected, and we shall utter no evil words. We shall abide compassionate for their welfare, with a mind of loving kindness, without inner hate. We shall pervade them with a mind of loving kindness. This isn't about being passive. It's not about accepting abuse. It's about understanding something profound about how the mind works. When your mind rests in loving kindness, negativity finds no foothold. Not because of mystical energy or invisible shields, but because of mental cultivation. Your state of mind becomes your sanctuary. Think of it like this. If you plant a garden full of flowers, weeds struggle to grow. Not because you're fighting the weeds, but because there's simply no room for them. Metta bhavana fills your mind so completely with loving kindness that hatred, fear, and anger have nowhere to take root. The Karaniya Metta Sutta, perhaps the most beloved discourse in all of Buddhism, describes this practice. The Buddha said, just as a mother protects her child, her only child, with her life, so should one cultivate a boundless heart towards all beings. Boundless, not selective, not conditional, not reserved only for those who treat you well. Boundless. This feels impossible when you're dealing with someone toxic. How can you cultivate loving kindness towards someone who harms you? Here's what most people miss. Metta isn't about them. It's about you. You're not generating loving kindness to change difficult people or to condone their behavior. You're cultivating it to protect your own mind from the poison of hatred. When your mind is saturated with loving kindness, someone's harsh words land differently. They don't penetrate because there's no matching frequency inside you to hook onto, no anger to feed their aggression, no fear to amplify their threats. You become like water. Criticism flows through. Insults can't take root. Toxicity finds nothing solid to cling to. Let me guide you through this practice right now. This moment. Together. Close your eyes if you'd like. If you're somewhere you can't close them, just soften your gaze. Take a deep breath, slow and full, letting your belly expand. Place one hand on your heart. Feel its steady rhythm. This heart that's been beating for you since before you were born. Now, silently, offer yourself these traditional phrases. Don't rush. Let each one sink in like rain into dry earth. May I be safe and protected. Breathe. Let those words settle into your body. May I be peaceful and at ease. Feel your shoulders beginning to soften. May I be healthy and strong. Notice any resistance that rises. Any voice that says you don't deserve this. Offer that voice loving kindness too. May I be happy and free. Rest here. Just rest in this wish for your own well-being. Now, Imagine these phrases extending outward like light from a candle flame. First to someone you love easily, maybe a child, a dear friend, a beloved teacher. May they be safe and protected. May they be peaceful and at ease. May they be healthy and strong. May they be happy and free. Now, and this is where it gets challenging, bring to mind someone neutral. Maybe the person who delivered your mail today, or the stranger you passed on the street. May they be safe and protected. May they be peaceful and at ease. And finally, if you can, bring to mind someone difficult. Not the most difficult. Start small. Maybe someone who irritated you recently. This doesn't mean you approve of their behavior. It means you refuse to let their behavior poison your mind. May they be safe and protected. May they be peaceful and at ease. May they be free from the suffering that causes them to cause suffering. Breathe. Just breathe with this. Now let it expand to all beings everywhere. May all beings be safe. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be free. Rest in this boundless goodwill for a few more breaths. This is Metapavana. This is your protection. Before difficult encounters, practice this for just 5 minutes. 5 minutes of saturating your mind with loving kindness. What you'll notice is remarkable. The person hasn't changed. Their behavior might be exactly the same, but your mind, your inner landscape, has been transformed. You walk into the room with mental clarity instead of defensiveness, with calm presence instead of braced resistance, with compassionate boundaries instead of reactive walls. Modern neuroscience has finally caught up to what the Buddha knew 2,500 years ago. Research from institutions like Stanford and Harvard shows that loving-kindness meditation physically changes the brain. It reduces activity in the amygdala, the fear center. It increases activity in areas associated with empathy and emotional regulation. It even affects the vagus nerve, improving your body's relaxation response. But you don't need a lab to prove it works. You just need to practice. Let me tell you about Marcus. He worked with a colleague who seemed to exist solely to make his professional life miserable. Every meeting, there was criticism. Every project, undermining comments. Every success Marcus had, this colleague found ways to diminish. Marcus tried everything. He tried being friendlier, thinking maybe the colleague just needed warmth. He tried avoiding him, taking different routes through the office. He tried confronting him directly in a private conversation. Nothing worked. The colleague's behavior remained constant, and Marcus's stress kept escalating. Then a friend introduced him to metta practice. Marcus was skeptical. More than skeptical, he was resistant. Send loving kindness to someone who was actively trying to sabotage his career? It felt not just absurd but wrong, like condoning bad behavior. But his friend explained, "You're not doing this for him. You're doing this so his toxicity stops poisoning your mind." Marcus committed to 30 days. Every morning, right after waking, 5 minutes of metta practice. He started with himself, then extended it to loved ones, then neutral people, and finally, reluctantly at first, to his difficult colleague. The first week felt mechanical, almost fake. The words felt hollow in his mind. Week 2, still nothing seemed different. Week 3, Marcus noticed something subtle. He wasn't bracing himself before meetings anymore. His shoulders weren't up around his ears when he saw his colleague's name on the meeting invite. By week 4, the transformation was undeniable. Same colleague, same critical comments, same undermining behavior, but Marcus felt nothing. Not numbness, not suppression, just genuine non-reactivity. The colleague's words landed like rain on a pond, creating ripples on the surface, but unable to disturb the depths. It wasn't magic. It was mental training. Marcus's mind had become so saturated with loving kindness that there was simply no room for the colleague's negativity to take root and grow into resentment, anger, or hurt. 6 months later, something unexpected happened. The colleague left the company, and Marcus realized he felt no satisfaction, no vindication, no good riddance. Just a quiet wish that the person would find peace wherever he went. That's when Marcus understood metta had set him free. This is what the Buddha meant by protection. Not armor that keeps the world out and makes you hard, but a mind so well cultivated, so thoroughly imbued with goodwill, that the world's chaos simply can't disturb your peace. Metta isn't about feeling warm and fuzzy toward everyone. It's about creating an internal environment where toxicity cannot take root. You're not changing them. You're transforming the soil of your own mind. And when that soil is rich with loving kindness, nothing harmful can grow there. The Metta Sutta says, one should develop a boundless heart toward all beings. As a mother would risk her life to protect her child, her only child, so should one cultivate a boundless heart toward all beings. This boundless heart doesn't make you weak. It makes you unbreakable. This is your protection. This is your fortress. This is your sanctuary. not built from stone and defensiveness, but cultivated from compassion and wisdom. The text message appears, and your blood boils instantly. Or you're in a meeting, and someone questions your competence in front of the entire team. Or it's just that tone, that dismissive, condescending tone, and your jaw clenches, your hands ball into fists, your mind spirals into defensive scripts you'll deliver perfectly in the shower later. This moment, this exact moment, this is where everything changes or stays the same. Your body knows what's happening before your conscious mind catches up. Heart racing, breath shallow and quick, thoughts spinning like a cyclone. And somewhere deep inside, your ego is screaming its familiar command: defend yourself now. Most of us obey that voice instantly. We react. We fire back that cutting reply. We say something we'll spend hours regretting. We escalate what could have dissolved. The Buddha understood this pattern intimately, and he offered humanity one of its most powerful tools for freedom. He called it anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing, the third ancient teaching. Not as a relaxation technique you do for 10 minutes before bed, not as stress management for difficult days, but as the very space between stimulus and response where freedom lives. That space, tiny, almost invisible, is everything. The Buddha said, "Feelings come and go like clouds in a windy sky. Conscious breathing is my anchor." When someone provokes you, there's a gap. It's so brief most people miss it entirely. The reaction feels automatic, inevitable, like there's no choice. But there is. One breath creates that choice. In the Anapanasati Sutta, the Buddha's comprehensive teaching on breath awareness, he described 16 stages of practice. But even before you learn all 16, you can use the most basic principle. Conscious breathing interrupts automatic reactivity. Let me show you exactly how this works. Not in theory, but in your body, right now, this moment. Wherever you are, sitting, standing, lying down, bring your attention to your breath. Don't change it yet. Just notice it. Is it shallow or deep? Fast or slow? Smooth or jagged? Where do you feel it most? Nose, chest, belly. Just observe without judgment. Now, consciously take one slow breath. Deliberately slow. Breathe in through your nose, counting silently to 4. Feel your belly expand first, then your chest. Feel your body taking in what it needs. Hold for just a moment at the top of the breath. Then breathe out slowly through your nose or mouth, counting to 6 or 8, longer than the in-breath. Feel your chest softening, your belly releasing, tension flowing out with the exhale. Notice what just happened in your body. Your heart rate slowed slightly. Your shoulders dropped. Your mind cleared just a bit, like wiping fog from a mirror. This isn't mystical. This is physiology meeting ancient wisdom. When you breathe consciously and slowly, you activate your parasympathetic nervous system, the body's natural calming mechanism that scientists call the rest and digest response. You shift from fight or flight mode to response mode, from ego-driven reaction to wisdom-guided action. One breath creates that shift. But here's what makes Anapanasati so powerful. It's always available. You can't always meditate. You can't always retreat to quiet space, but you can always breathe. The Buddha taught this practice to everyone, to monks in monasteries, and to lay people in marketplaces. Because life doesn't wait for perfect conditions. Difficulty doesn't schedule appointments. The practice works wherever you are. Let me tell you about an email that almost destroyed a relationship. A woman named Lisa received a message from her sister late one Thursday night. It was harsh, accusatory, filled with years of buried resentment, suddenly erupting onto the screen like a volcano that had been building pressure for decades. Every sentence cut deeper than the last. Accusations about past betrayals Lisa didn't remember. Interpretations of events that seemed completely distorted. Pain that Lisa had caused without ever knowing. Lisa's first impulse was to respond immediately. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, composing a reply that would cut just as deep, if not deeper. She knew exactly where her sister's vulnerabilities were. She knew exactly what words would wound most effectively. But something made her pause. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was grace. Maybe it was the tiny voice of wisdom beneath the roar of hurt ego. She closed her laptop. She stood up from her desk. She walked to her bedroom window and looked out at the dark street below. And she took 3 slow breaths. In through her nose, counting to 4. Out through her mouth, counting to 8. 3 times. In those 3 breaths, maybe 30 seconds total, everything shifted. The urgent need to defend herself softened. The desire to wound back diminished. She could see past the harsh words to the pain beneath them. She remembered moments from their childhood, times when her sister felt overlooked while Lisa got attention, wounds that Lisa had never meant to inflict, but had inflicted nonetheless. She recognized that this email wasn't really about recent events. It was about accumulated hurt finally finding voice. When she finally replied, hours later, not seconds, her words came from a completely different place. Not from hurt ego defending itself, but from understanding, acknowledging pain. Not from the need to win, but from the desire to heal. That pause saved their relationship. 3 breaths. 30 seconds. That's all it took to choose wisdom over wounding. In Zen practice, there's a teaching that Master Thich Nhat Hanh made famous. The gap is where wisdom lives. Not in the thoughts that race through your mind, not in the reactions that want to burst forth, but in the space between stimulus and response. That space might be tiny, the width of a single breath, but it contains infinite possibility. You don't need to fill every moment with words. You don't need to respond to every provocation instantly. Sometimes silence is the most powerful response you can offer. Your calm presence speaks louder than any defense, any explanation, any justification ever could. There was an executive named David who learned this lesson through years of painful experience. Board meetings in his company were brutal arenas. Certain board members seemed to view every presentation as an opportunity to tear him down, question his competence, undermine his authority in front of his peers. For years, David fought back verbally. Every attack met with immediate defense. Every question met with lengthy explanation. Every doubt met with insistence. It never helped. The attacks only intensified. The more he defended, the more they attacked. He was caught in an exhausting cycle of provocation and reaction. His performance reviews praised his work, but noted his defensiveness as a leadership weakness. Then his executive coach taught him one simple practice: 3 conscious breaths before every response. That's it. No elaborate technique, no complicated strategy. Just breathe 3 times before speaking. The first board meeting where he practiced this felt excruciating. Someone attacked his quarterly projections, calling them unrealistic and poorly researched. David's entire body screamed to defend immediately, to justify his numbers, to prove his competence. Instead, he breathed. Once, slow and deep. Twice, feeling his shoulders drop. 3 times, creating space between the attack and his response. Then he spoke, calmly, clearly, without defensiveness. I hear your concern about the projections. Let me walk through the data that supports them. No edge in his voice, no tightness in his body, just calm, factual response. The attacker seemed momentarily confused by the lack of defensiveness. There was nothing to push against. The energy in the room shifted from confrontation to collaboration. David kept practicing, meeting after meeting, month after month, year after year. 3 breaths before every response, especially to provocations. Within a year, something remarkable happened. The attacks stopped. Not because David became better at defending himself, but because there was nothing to attack anymore. His calm became impenetrable, not through hardness, but through spaciousness. People started describing him differently. Unshakable, centered, wise beyond his years, the calm in any storm. He rose from manager to director to vice president to CEO. When people asked his secret to handling pressure, he'd smile and say, "I learned to breathe." They thought he was being modest or metaphorical. He wasn't. 3 conscious breaths had literally changed the trajectory of his career and his life. This teaching of Anapanasati isn't about suppressing your feelings. It's not about swallowing anger or pretending hurt doesn't exist. It's about creating space between what happens and what you choose to do about it. In that space lives your power, your freedom, your wisdom. The Anapanasati Sutta describes how the Buddha himself practiced this way. He'd breathe in, knowing he was breathing in. He'd breathe out, knowing he was breathing out. Simple awareness of breath, moment by moment. Through this practice, he said, you can calm your body, you can calm your feelings, you can calm your thoughts, and from that calm comes clear seeing, the ability to respond wisely instead of react blindly. The next time someone provokes you, try this. Don't try to fix anything. Don't try to respond perfectly. Don't try to control your emotions. Just breathe. 1 conscious breath before you speak. 1 conscious breath before you type that message. 1 conscious breath before you decide your next move. That's all. Watch what happens. Watch how that single breath creates a different outcome. Watch how it shifts you from victim to chooser, from reactive to responsive, from controlled to in control. The Buddha knew what neuroscience has only recently confirmed. The breath is the bridge between body and mind. When you regulate your breath, you influence your nervous system, which influences your emotions, which influences your thoughts, which influences your actions. Control the breath, and everything else follows. This is not about perfection. You'll forget sometimes. You'll react without thinking. That's human. But the more you practice, the more automatic it becomes. The pause starts happening naturally. The space grows wider. The choice becomes clearer. And in that growing space, you find something precious, your freedom. No one can take your peace if you don't hand it over in that moment of reaction. And the breath is how you keep your peace in your own hands. The text comes in at 9:17 p.m. on a Sunday. Hey, can you help me with something real quick? You know it won't be quick. It never is. But you type back, sure, anyway, and suddenly your evening vanishes into someone else's crisis. Or maybe it's the friend who always needs just one more favor, one more listening session, one more rescue from problems they could solve themselves. Or the family member whose emergencies somehow always become your emergencies to solve. Or the colleague who's conveniently forgotten how to do their own job. And every single time you say yes when everything inside you screams no, something dies a little. Not all at once, more like a slow erosion, water wearing away stone. The guilt is crushing. If I don't help, who will? They need me. I should be more giving, more patient, more selfless. But here's what almost no one tells you about true compassion. It includes yourself. The Buddha's fourth teaching, Samma Kammanta, or right action, is perhaps the most misunderstood aspect of the Eightfold Path. We've been taught a distorted version of spiritual practice. One where being good means saying yes to everyone, helping everyone, being available to everyone, all the time, regardless of cost to yourself. This isn't Buddhism. This is self-destruction wearing spirituality's clothing. Right action means action that's aligned with wisdom and compassion, and that includes compassion for yourself. True compassion doesn't drain you dry. It sustains you. The Buddha taught that there are 4 types of people: those who care for others, but not themselves; those who care for themselves, but not others; those who care for neither; and those who care for both. Only the 4th type, caring for both self and others, reflects right action. Boundaries aren't walls built from selfishness. They're clarity about what's yours to carry and what isn't. The Buddha himself demonstrated this. He didn't try to save every person he encountered. He taught those who were ready to hear. He moved on from those who weren't. He rested when he needed rest. He maintained boundaries that allowed his teaching to continue for 45 years. He even had a personal attendant, Ananda, specifically so he wouldn't be overwhelmed by constant demands. The Buddha said, "You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection." Read those words again slowly. You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. Not after you've helped everyone else. Not when you've earned it through endless service. Not if you manage to be perfect enough. Now, always, unconditionally. Saying no to protect your peace is saying yes to your practice. And here's what most people struggle to accept. No is a complete sentence. You don't need to explain. You don't need to justify. You don't need to apologize for having limits like every other human being on this planet. No, spoken with kindness, is compassion for both people. It's compassion for them because it's honest. You're not building resentment that will poison the relationship later. It's compassion for you because it's protective. You're honoring your own needs as worthy of respect. Let me show you what this sounds like in practice. Not harsh, not cold, but clear. Warm but unwavering, like a hand that's soft but doesn't waver. I'm not able to do that. That doesn't work for me. I need to protect my time right now. I can't take this on. I hear that you're struggling, and I'm not available to help with this. Notice what's missing from these phrases. Explanation, justification, apology for existing with limitations. Just clear, kind truth delivered with gentle firmness. There was a woman named Rachel who lived her entire adult life unable to speak these words. She was the person everyone called when they needed something, the one who always helped, the reliable one, who never said no, the giving one, the selfless one, the good one. She was also completely exhausted, chronically overwhelmed, resentful in ways she'd never admit out loud, and deeply, silently angry at everyone who kept asking for more. But she couldn't stop saying yes, because saying no felt like admitting she wasn't good enough, strong enough, spiritual enough. Her therapist finally asked her a question that changed everything. What would happen if you said no? Rachel's answer came immediately, rehearsed from years of internal repetition. They'd be disappointed in me. They'd think I don't care about them. They might leave. And then I'd be alone. The therapist leaned forward. And if they leave because you have basic human boundaries, what does that tell you about the relationship? Rachel sat with that question for a long time, feeling something crack open inside her chest. The truth was uncomfortable. Relationships built on her endless availability weren't actually relationships. They were arrangements, and she'd been maintaining them at the cost of her own well-being. She made one decision, one boundary, One small declaration that felt enormous. I need Sundays for myself. That's all. No visitors on Sundays. No phone calls unless genuine emergency. No favors. No obligations. Sundays belong to her for rest, for reading, for doing absolutely nothing if that's what she needed. Her family was shocked. Her mother called it selfish. Her sister said she was being dramatic. A friend stopped speaking to her for 2 weeks. But Rachel held the boundary. Even when it felt uncomfortable, even when guilt rose up like waves trying to pull her under. And something remarkable happened. After the initial resistance and testing, people adapted. They stopped calling on Sundays. They planned around her boundary. They learned to respect it. And Rachel, she got her life back. One boundary, one small clear boundary, restored her peace. Her energy returned. Her resentment faded. She started enjoying time with people again because she wasn't perpetually drained. Most surprisingly, her relationships deepened. When she showed up for people, they knew she genuinely wanted to be there, not that she couldn't say no. This is your invitation. This week, set one boundary. Just one. Something small but real. Something that honors your needs without apology. Maybe it's, I don't answer work messages after 6 p.m. Maybe it's, I need one evening a week, completely alone. Maybe it's, I can listen for 20 minutes, but then I need to go. Maybe it's, I don't lend money to friends or family. Whatever boundary you choose, say it clearly. Say it kindly. Say it without justification or apology. Then notice what happens. Notice the resistance, both yours and theirs. Notice the guilt that rises up, whispering that you're being selfish, difficult, unreasonable. And then notice something else beneath the guilt. Relief. Space. The sense of coming back to yourself after being scattered across everyone else's needs. Here's the paradox that almost no one prepares you for. When you protect your peace with clear boundaries, your relationships don't weaken, they strengthen. Because you're no longer relating from depletion and hidden resentment. You're relating from fullness and genuine choice. The people who respect your boundaries, they're your people. They stay. They appreciate the clarity. They grow alongside you. The people who can't tolerate your boundaries, they reveal themselves as people who valued your availability more than your well-being. And losing those relationships, painful as it might be, makes room for relationships where you can show up as your whole self, limits included. The Buddha taught the middle way, not self-denial, not indulgence, but balance. Boundaries are the middle way applied to relationships. Not walls that isolate you in fortress-like protection, not open doors that let every demand flood in without filter, but healthy membranes that allow nourishment while keeping out harm. Your peace is not negotiable. Your time is not infinite. Your energy is not expendable. And protecting these precious resources doesn't make you selfish. It makes you honest about being human. Right action includes knowing when to help and when to step back, when to say yes and when to say no, when to give and when to receive, when to engage and when to protect your peace. This is Samma Kammanta, right action that includes compassion for yourself. When you say no to what depletes you, you're saying yes to what sustains you. When you set a boundary, you're creating space for what truly matters. This is compassion. Real compassion. Compassion that includes you in the circle of care, instead of asking you to stand outside it, endlessly giving while never receiving. Practice this teaching. Practice saying no. Practice holding your boundaries with firm kindness. Your peace depends on it. Your practice depends on it. Your ability to genuinely help others depends on it. Because you cannot pour from an empty cup, and you cannot walk the path to peace while carrying everyone else's burdens as if they were your own. Someone's anger explodes in your direction, sudden, intense, seemingly about nothing you can identify. Your mind races. What did I do? How did I cause this? What should I fix? The urge to explain, defend, make it right floods through you like adrenaline. You're standing in your kitchen, or sitting at your desk, or driving your car, and suddenly you're spinning through every interaction, searching for what you did wrong, how you caused this person's fury. But here's what the Buddha discovered beneath the Bodhi tree. A truth so liberating it can free you from this exhausting pattern forever. He called it Yathabhuta Jnana, knowledge of things as they actually are. Not as they appear, not as we interpret them, not as our fears or hopes paint them, but as they truly are. And what he saw was this: people respond to their own minds, not to reality. Think about that for a moment. When someone criticizes you, gets angry at you, judges you harshly, they're not responding to who you actually are. They're responding to their interpretation of you, filtered through their history, their wounds, their current state of mind. You are a mirror reflecting their inner world back to them, not the cause of what they see. The Buddha said, "We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts." This doesn't just apply to you. It applies to everyone. Every single person, creating their reality through the lens of their mind. Let me paint you a picture of how this understanding transforms everything. There was a woman named Jennifer who worked for a boss who criticized relentlessly. Every project she submitted came back marked in red. Every presentation she gave received harsh feedback. Every idea she offered met immediate skepticism. For 2 years, Jennifer absorbed this as truth about her competence. If her boss, experienced, respected, authoritative, saw her work as inadequate, then surely it must be inadequate. She worked longer hours, double-checked everything, sought perfection in every detail. But nothing changed. The criticism remained constant, like rain that never stops. Jennifer started having Sunday night anxiety attacks, started updating her resume, started believing she might not be cut out for this career after all. Then one Friday, everything shifted. Jennifer stayed late to finish a report. As she was leaving, she passed her boss's office and heard him on the phone. The door was slightly open, and his words drifted into the hallway. "I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. The board wants results I can't deliver. My wife says I'm never home. My daughter won't speak to me. I'm drowning in debt, and everyone's looking to me for answers I don't have." Jennifer stood frozen, hearing him break down in sobs. The next Monday, he criticized her quarterly analysis in a meeting. Same harsh tone, same dismissive body language, same words that usually cut deep. But something was completely different. Jennifer didn't feel the usual sting. Instead, she saw a man drowning, gasping for control by criticizing everything around him. His words weren't about her analysis. They were about his failing marriage, his financial terror, his imposter syndrome as a leader. The criticism was the same, but Jennifer's understanding had transformed. She saw through the surface to the suffering beneath. And in that seeing, she found her freedom. She still listened professionally to his feedback. She still made improvements where genuinely warranted. But she stopped absorbing his pain as evidence of her inadequacy. This is Yathabhuta Jnana in action, seeing things as they actually are. That angry person who snaps at everyone. Look closer. Fear lives underneath, masquerading as aggression. That controlling person who micromanages every detail. Beneath the control is terror of chaos, of things falling apart, of powerlessness they once felt and never want to feel again. That critical person who finds fault in everything you do. Turn the mirror around They're often hardest on themselves, projecting internal harshness outward because they don't know any other way. This understanding doesn't excuse harmful behavior. This is crucial to grasp. You can hold two truths simultaneously. I see your pain, and I protect my peace. Understanding their suffering doesn't mean accepting mistreatment. Compassion doesn't require you to be a target. This is the middle way the Buddha taught. Not cold rejection, not doormat acceptance, but wise compassion with clear boundaries. Next time someone lashes out at you, try asking yourself, what pain is this person carrying? Not to excuse their behavior, not to fix their pain, but to understand it. Understanding creates space between their action and your reaction. Space where you can choose, absorb this as truth about me, or recognize it as their inner world expressing itself. Let me tell you about a therapist named Michael, who mastered this teaching so completely that nothing his clients said could disturb his peace. Clients would rage at him, accuse him of not caring, tell him he was useless, incompetent, making everything worse. New therapists in supervision would ask him, "How do you not take it personally?" Michael would smile and say, "Their anger isn't about me. It's their pain finding its voice. They're showing me their inner world, the criticism they absorbed from parents, the rage they couldn't express to those who hurt them, the fear that no one can actually help." He taught his students, their behavior is their teacher, showing you their inner landscape. Listen not to the words, but to the suffering beneath the words. This transforms everything. When you understand that people's reactions reveal their inner world, rather than truth about you, you become unshakable. Not because you've built walls, not because you've stopped caring, but because you've learnt to see clearly. The Dhammapada teaches, the fool thinks they have won a battle when they bullied with harsh speech, but knowing how to be forbearing, that makes one victorious. Forbearance doesn't mean weakness. It means understanding so deep that others' storms pass through you, like wind through a forest, rustling leaves, but never uprooting trees. Practice this today. When someone's words sting or their anger confuses you, pause. Take one breath, then ask, what pain lives beneath this reaction? You'll start seeing patterns. The colleague who always undermines you often feels unseen and fights for recognition the only way they know. The friend who guilt trips you, terrified of abandonment, trying to control connection through manipulation. The family member who criticizes your choices, wrestling with their own regrets, projecting them onto your canvas. None of it is about you. All of it is about them. And when you truly see this, yathabhutanyana, things as they actually are, you find a freedom more profound than any defense could give you. You find the freedom to stay in your own peace, while others storm around you. You've explained yourself 3 times now, using different words, trying different approaches, hoping this time they'll finally understand. They don't. Each explanation seems to invite more questions, more challenges, more demands for justification. And with each round, you feel more exhausted, more depleted, more like you're pouring yourself out, while nothing fills you back up. This is a pattern many of us know too well. Defending our choices endlessly, justifying our boundaries repeatedly, explaining our peace to people who aren't interested in understanding. But there's an ancient teaching that offers a radically different way. In the Pali Canon, the Buddha spoke often of Arya Tunibhava, noble silence. Not silence from cowardice or avoidance, but silence that comes from wisdom, from knowing that some things need no defense. There's a famous Zen koan that illustrates this perfectly. A student asked Master Zhaozhou, "Does a dog have Buddha nature?" The master responded with one word, "Mu." Mu means nothing, no, thing, the sound of a question dissolving into silence. Not because the master didn't know the answer, but because some questions don't deserve the energy of elaborate response. The student wanted a debate, a philosophical discussion, something to grasp with the thinking mind. The master offered only presence, profound, complete, requiring nothing more. This is the teaching we're exploring now. Your peace needs no defense. The Buddha himself said something that sounds almost too simple to be profound. There is no need to prove anything to anyone. Your calm presence is the answer. But living this truth, that's the practice of a lifetime. Why does explaining ourselves drain us so completely? Because in explaining, we're seeking validation from people who fundamentally don't understand what we're protecting. We're inviting debate where none is needed. We're giving away our power by suggesting that our choices require external approval to be valid. Every explanation is, at its core, asking, "Is this okay? Am I okay? Will you validate my decision?" But here's what noble silence teaches. Your calm doesn't need defense. Your no doesn't need a paragraph of justification. Your peace speaks for itself in your presence, your consistency, your unwavering centeredness. Let me tell you about a monk who embodied this teaching so completely that his silence became legendary. Master Ryokan lived in a small hut on a mountain. He rarely spoke, sometimes going days or weeks without saying more than a few words. Students would climb the mountain to ask him profound questions about enlightenment, suffering, the nature of mind. They expected elaborate teachings, philosophical discourses, wisdom they could write down and study. Instead, Ryokan would often just smile, or pour tea, or continue whatever simple task he was doing, sweeping, tending his garden, mending his robe. The students would grow frustrated. "Master, we came all this way for teaching. Please, explain the path to us." Ryokan would look at them with infinite kindness and say nothing. Or sometimes he'd say, "The tea is ready." His silence taught more than volumes could. It taught that presence is enough. That peace doesn't need to defend itself or explain itself. That some truths can only be transmitted through wordless demonstration. When Ryokan did speak, rarely, perhaps once every few weeks, people listened with complete attention. Because his words came from such deep silence, they carried weight that constant talking never could. His presence was his teaching. His silence was his answer. Now you might be thinking, "But I'm not a monk on a mountain. I have a job, family, obligations. People ask me questions that seem to require answers." Yes. And here's the discernment this teaching invites. Knowing when to speak and when to let your presence be enough. Speak when it serves clarity, when your words will genuinely help someone understand something important. Speak when it serves compassion, when your explanation eases unnecessary suffering or confusion. Otherwise, let your presence be your answer. Practice this week. One time. Don't explain. Someone asks why you're making a particular choice. Instead of the usual paragraph of justification, try, "That's my choice." Or, "That's what works for me." Or simply, "Yes, that's what I'm doing." Then, and this is the hard part, stop. Don't fill the silence. Don't elaborate. Don't justify. Notice what happens in your body. Notice the discomfort, the urge to keep explaining, the fear that silence equals rudeness or coldness. Breathe through it. And then notice something else, the freedom. The relief of not having to convince anyone. The power of standing in your choice without apology. The peace of letting your presence speak louder than your words. Let me tell you about a woman named Alison, who transformed her entire life through this practice. Alison was vegan, and for years she explained this choice constantly. At every dinner party, every family gathering, every work lunch, someone would ask, "Why vegan?" And she'd launch into her reasons, ethics, environment, health, all of it. The explanations led to debates. The debates led to defensiveness. The defensiveness left her exhausted and resentful, dreading social situations that should have been enjoyable. One day, at her sister's birthday dinner, someone asked the familiar question, "So, why are you vegan again?" Alison took a breath, and instead of her usual explanation, she said simply, "It's what works for me." Then stopped. The person waited for more. Alison smiled and took a bite of her food. "But I mean, do you really think it makes a difference?" "It's what works for me," Alison repeated calmly, still smiling. The person looked confused, then moved on to another topic. That was it. No debate, no defense, no exhaustion afterward. Alison kept practicing this. "It's what works for me" became her peaceful boundary. Within a month, something remarkable happened. People stopped challenging her. Not because she'd convinced them with brilliant arguments, but because there was nothing to push against. Her calm presence communicated certainty without needing to prove anything. People started respecting her choice in a way they never had when she was constantly explaining and defending. Her peace became magnetic rather than militant. This is the power of noble silence, not refusing to communicate, but communicating through presence rather than persuasion. The Dhammapada says, "Better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace." Sometimes that one word is silence. When you stop explaining your peace to people who don't understand peace, you stop giving away the very thing you're trying to protect. Your calm doesn't need external validation. Your choices don't require consensus. Your boundaries don't need approval. They simply need you to hold them with quiet consistency. This doesn't make you cold or uncaring. It makes you clear. Think of the ocean. It doesn't explain why it's deep. It doesn't justify its tides. It simply is, vast and deep and powerful in its presence. You can be like that ocean. Let your peace speak through your presence, not your explanations. It's 9:30 at night, and you're still thinking about it. That argument, that disagreement, that comment someone made that you should have responded to differently. You've replayed the conversation 17 times, crafting better comebacks, stronger arguments, more devastating responses. You won every imaginary version of the argument. But somehow, lying here in the dark, you don't feel victorious. You feel exhausted. And tomorrow when you wake up, the first thought will be that conversation again, like a song stuck in your head that you can't stop playing. Here's the question nobody asks you but changes everything when you ask yourself, what was that argument even about? Really about? Not the surface topic, politics, parenting styles, whose turn it was to do the dishes. But what underneath? Often, the answer is simple and uncomfortable. Ego. The need to be right. The need to have the last word. The need to win, even when winning means losing your peace. The Buddha taught something he called sama vayama, right effort. It's the sixth factor of the Noble Eightfold Path, and it's often misunderstood. People think right effort means trying harder, doing more, pushing through obstacles. But that's not what the Buddha meant at all. Right effort means discernment. Knowing where to place your energy and where to withdraw it. Not all conflicts deserve your energy. Not all battles deserve to be fought. Some fights the wise person simply walks away from, not from cowardice, but from clarity about what truly matters. The Buddha said, holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. Every argument you engage in burns you first. Every debate you enter costs you peace you can't get back. Every need to prove yourself right takes from the finite energy you have for things that actually matter. So here's the question that changes everything. The question that embodies sama vayama. Do I want to be right, or do I want to be at peace? Sit with that for a moment. Not as a rhetorical question, but as a real choice you face multiple times every day. Someone says something you disagree with. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be at peace? Someone misunderstands your intention. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be at peace? Someone shares an opinion that contradicts your deeply held beliefs. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be at peace? You can't have both in every moment. Not really. Being right often costs peace. And peace often requires releasing the need to be right. Let me tell you about a man named David who argued about everything. Politics with his brother-in-law, parenting styles with his ex-wife, religion with his sister, climate change with his father, proper barbecue technique with his neighbor. Every family dinner became a debate. Every casual conversation a potential battlefield. Every difference of opinion an opportunity to educate, correct, convince. David prided himself on being informed, on standing up for truth, on not backing down from important discussions. He didn't notice how tired his relationships had become. how people's eyes glazed over when he started talking, how invitations became less frequent, how even his own children seemed to brace themselves before visiting. One Sunday dinner, his sister made a comment about something political. David felt the familiar fire rise up, the need to respond, to correct, to engage. But then he had a thought he'd never had before. What if I just don't? It felt strange, almost physically uncomfortable, like holding your breath underwater. His sister's comment hung in the air. David opened his mouth, then closed it, took a breath, took a sip of water, said nothing. The conversation moved on, and David felt something unexpected, relief. Not the satisfaction of having won an argument, but the quiet peace of not having entered one. He started practicing this. Not with every disagreement. Sometimes he still engaged. But he started asking himself first, will this matter in a week? A month? A year? If the answer was no, he let it pass. Does this person want understanding, or do they want a fight? If they wanted a fight, he declined the invitation. What do I actually gain by engaging here? Often, the answer was nothing but temporary ego satisfaction and lasting peace disruption. Over 6 months, David's relationships transformed. Family dinners became enjoyable again. His children visited more often. His sister told him one day, "I don't know what's changed, but you're different, calmer. I actually look forward to seeing you now." David had more energy for things that mattered: his work, his creative projects, his meditation practice. Because he wasn't bleeding that energy into endless arguments that changed nothing except his stress level. This is sama vayama, right effort applied to conflict. Not avoiding all conflict, but wisely discerning which conflicts deserve your energy and which don't. Here's a practical framework: the pause and question technique. Someone says something inflammatory, something that triggers your need to respond. Pause. Just for 3 seconds. Then ask yourself 3 questions. Will this matter in a week? If you won't remember this conversation next Tuesday, why give it your peace today? Does this person want understanding, or just to vent? If they're not actually open to dialogue, you're shouting into wind. What do I gain by engaging? Real gains: deeper understanding, resolution, connection. False gains: being right, having the last word, satisfying ego. If you can't identify a real gain, let it go. What you gain when you stop fighting unnecessary battles. Energy for what truly matters. Your practice, your creativity, your genuine relationships. Mental clarity. Your mind isn't constantly replaying arguments and planning rebuttals. Relationships that can breathe. People relax around you when they know you're not going to turn every disagreement into combat. Respect from unexpected places. People admire those who don't need to win every argument. Let me tell you about a content creator named Maya, who learned this lesson in the brutal school of internet comments. For 2 years, Maya responded to almost every critical comment on her videos. Someone misunderstood her point. She'd write 3 paragraphs explaining. Someone disagreed with her perspective. She'd engage in lengthy debate threads. Someone just wanted to be cruel. She'd try to reason with them, convinced she could help them see differently. It was exhausting. She'd spend hours every day in comment sections, her creativity drained by constant defense and explanation. One day, her therapist asked, "Are any of these conversations actually conversations? Or are they just energy drains disguised as dialogue?" Maya realized they were energy drains. Almost no one changed their mind. Almost no one actually wanted understanding. They wanted attention, or they wanted to fight, or they wanted to bring her down to their level of frustration. She made a decision. She would create in peace and let the work speak for itself. She stopped reading most comments. She stopped responding to criticism. She stopped trying to convince people who didn't want to be convinced. Her channel grew faster than it ever had, because instead of spending energy defending past videos, she was creating new ones. Her peace stabilized. Her joy in creating returned. And ironically, the negative comments decreased, as if trolls lost interest when they couldn't get a reaction. This is the wisdom of Samavayama, protecting your energy for what matters by declining what doesn't. Not every invitation to fight deserves acceptance. Not every disagreement deserves your peace as payment. The Buddha taught 4 aspects of right effort. Prevent unwholesome states from arising. Abandon unwholesome states that have arisen. Cultivate wholesome states not yet present. Maintain wholesome states already present. Applied to conflict, this means don't enter arguments that will disturb your peace. Exit arguments that are already disturbing your peace. Cultivate understanding and compassion instead. Protect the peace you've already found. This teaching doesn't make you passive or avoidant. It makes you strategic, intentional, wise about where you place your most precious resource, your attention, your energy, your peace. Take a breath. Release the need to win every argument. Your peace is worth more than being right. The relationship keeps taking more than it gives. You know this. You've known it for months, maybe years. But you keep trying, keep hoping, keep showing up, keep giving one more chance, keep thinking, maybe this time it will be different. Each interaction leaves you depleted. Each conversation drains something you can't quite name. Each encounter costs more than it nourishes. But the guilt is crushing. But I should be more patient, more understanding, more giving. They need me. Who else will help them, understand them, stay with them? What will they think? That I'm cold, selfish, uncaring. So you stay, and you suffer, and you wonder when compassion became self-destruction. There's an ancient teaching that offers a way through this painful bind. The Buddha spoke of upekkha, often translated as equanimity, but meaning something far richer than emotional flatness. Upekkha means spacious, clear-seeing, compassion. It means caring deeply without clinging. It means loving without losing yourself. And sometimes, upekkha looks like distance. Not rejection, not punishment, not abandonment, but space, loving, intentional, healing space. The Buddha often used the lotus flower to teach profound truths. He'd say, just as a lotus flower is born in water, grows in water, and rises out of water to stand above it unsoiled, so I, born in the world, having overcome the world, am unsoiled by the world. Think about that lotus for a moment. It doesn't reject the muddy water. That's its origin. It doesn't hate the darkness below the surface, but it doesn't stay submerged either. It rises. It finds air and light. It blooms above the surface. Still connected to its roots in the mud, but no longer drowning in it. This is what healing distance looks like. You can care about someone without staying in proximity that harms you. You can love someone while protecting yourself from their dysfunction. The Buddha said, "Let go of what has passed. Let go of what may come. Do not cling to what is happening now. Experience peace." Sometimes, what you need to let go of is the belief that your presence in someone's chaos is helping them. Distance isn't always punishment. Sometimes it's the kindest thing you can offer. For them, your distance might stop enabling patterns that keep them stuck. Your absence might create space for them to find their own strength. Your boundary might be the wake-up call their system needs. For you, distance preserves your capacity to love without it curdling into resentment. Space protects your peace, so you don't become another person who needs rescuing. Let me tell you about a mother and daughter caught in a cycle so toxic they could barely breathe. Every phone call devolved into criticism. Every visit ended in tears. Every attempt at connection reopened old wounds that never seemed to heal. The daughter, now in her 30s, would call her mother seeking support and leave feeling small, inadequate, judged. The mother, carrying her own unhealed wounds, couldn't seem to speak to her daughter without criticism pouring out like water from a broken faucet. Both loved each other desperately. Both kept trying to make it work. Both kept hurting each other in the trying. After a particularly brutal holiday visit, the daughter sat in her therapist's office, sobbing. "I keep hoping it will be different, that this time she'll see me, that this time she won't." The therapist asked gently, "What would happen if you took a break? Real space, not just a few weeks?" The daughter's first reaction was horror. "I can't abandon her. She's my mother. What kind of person would I be?" But underneath the guilt lived a small voice of truth. "I'm drowning. We're both drowning. And trying harder isn't helping. It's making everything worse." The daughter wrote a letter, kind but clear. "I love you, and I need significant space to take care of myself. I'll reach out when I'm ready. I hope you can respect this boundary." Then 6 months of silence. 6 months that felt like holding her breath underwater, fighting against everything she'd been taught about being a good daughter. 6 months where the mother, left in that silence, had to face herself in ways she never had before. No daughter to criticize, no external target for internal pain. Just herself, her patterns, her unhealed wounds demanding attention. The mother started therapy, not because anyone forced her, but because the silence was so loud she couldn't ignore her own pain anymore. When they reconnected after those 6 months, something was different. Not perfect, not magically healed, but different. The mother had done real work. The daughter had rebuilt her own foundation. They approached each other more carefully, more consciously, more honestly. The relationship they built in the months that followed was healthier than anything they'd had before. Not because they'd tried harder, but because they'd both grown separately first. This is the medicine of silence, the healing power of loving distance. Not every wound heals through proximity. Some require separation, like broken bones needing stillness and space to mend properly. Your absence might be exactly what someone needs, not as punishment, but as the space that allows them to finally hear themselves instead of just reacting to you. Your peace might be the greatest gift you give. Not peace as in passivity, but peace as in, I've done my own work, and I'm no longer available for this dance. How do you create distance with love? If possible, communicate clearly. Not with blame or anger, but with honest boundary. I need space to take care of myself. This isn't about punishing you. This is about preserving me. Then honor that boundary consistently. This doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough about both of you to stop participating in mutual harm. The paradox nobody tells you about distance. It doesn't always mean you don't care. Sometimes caring means stepping back. Sometimes love looks like letting go. Sometimes the most compassionate thing you can do is say, I'm not available for this anymore. The relationship might heal through that space. Both people might grow separately and reconnect differently. Or you might not reunite, and that's okay too. Either way, you're no longer drowning, trying to save someone who needs to learn to swim on their own. The Buddha taught upekkha as one of the 4 divine abodes, alongside loving kindness, compassion, and sympathetic joy. Upekkha is what allows the other 3 to remain sustainable. Without equanimity, without the ability to love while maintaining clear boundaries, compassion becomes codependence, and kindness becomes self-destruction. You can wish someone well from a distance. You can hold space for their struggle without standing in the middle of it. You can hope for their healing without making yourself responsible for it. This is upekkha. This is wisdom. This is love that knows its own limits. Practice this teaching not as coldness, but as clarity. Some relationships thrive on proximity. Others heal through space. Knowing the difference is wisdom. And when you choose space, when you choose to protect your peace through loving distance, you're not abandoning anyone. You're finally honoring the truth that you cannot walk another person's path for them. And you cannot sacrifice your own journey trying to carry them through theirs. Sometimes the lotus must rise above the water to bloom. Sometimes you must step back to remember who you are without the weight of who they need you to be. This is not failure. This is upekkha. This is the wisdom that protects both peace and love. Chaos surrounds you. Deadlines pressing from every direction. Demands shouting for attention. Noise, endless, relentless noise from phones, emails, people, traffic, the constant hum of a world that never stops. And yet, in the middle of all this, you see someone who seems untouched by the storm, calm in their center, present but not overwhelmed, moving through chaos with a stillness that seems almost impossible. How? The answer lies in something the Buddha spoke about in his final days on earth. As he lay dying, his disciples gathered around him, frightened about losing their teacher, their guide, their refuge. "Who will lead us?" they asked. "Where will we turn?" The Buddha's response became one of his most important teachings. Be a lamp unto yourself. Be your own refuge. Hold fast to the truth as a lamp. This is bhavana, the cultivation of mind that transforms you into your own sanctuary. Your mind, properly trained through consistent practice, becomes a fortress that the external world cannot disturb. Not because you've shut the world out, but because you've built something so stable within that external chaos can't shake your foundation. This fortress isn't constructed in a single dramatic moment of enlightenment. It's built through daily practice, moment by moment, like drops of water, gradually filling an ocean. The Buddha said, "Your work is to discover your world, and then, with all your heart, give yourself to it." This is that work. The daily, unglamorous, profoundly transformative work of training your own mind. Let me tell you about James, a man who worked in finance, high pressure, high stakes, constant stress. He lived in perpetual reaction, his nervous system always activated, his mind always racing 3 steps ahead. A friend suggested meditation. James laughed. "I don't have time to sit around doing nothing. I have actual problems to solve." But the friend persisted. Just 5 minutes. Every morning. For 30 days. What do you have to lose? James agreed, mostly to prove it wouldn't work. Day 1. He sat for 5 minutes, felt restless, checked the timer 4 times. This does nothing, he thought. Day 7. Still restless, still convinced this was pointless. Day 14. He noticed he wasn't checking the timer as often. The 5 minutes passed more quickly. Month 1. Nothing dramatic, but something subtle. He snapped at his assistant, then immediately noticed the snap. There was a tiny space of awareness that hadn't been there before. Month 3. James realized he wasn't as reactive in meetings. Someone would criticize a proposal, and instead of his usual defensive spike, there was a pause, a breath, a choice. Month 6. Colleagues started asking, "What changed? You seem different, calmer." James didn't know how to explain it. Nothing had changed externally, Same job, same pressures, same demanding clients. But internally, everything had shifted. Year 1. James had what he called his superpower. Not that he could do anything supernatural, but compared to colleagues who lived in constant reactivity, he had access to something they didn't: choice. The ability to pause between stimulus and response. The ability to stay calm when everyone else panicked. The ability to think clearly under pressure. His career accelerated not because he worked harder, but because he worked from a completely different mental state. This is bhavana, mental cultivation through simple daily practice. Morning meditation, just 5 to 10 minutes. Before you check your phone, before you let the world's demands flood in. Anapanasati, breath awareness, or metta practice. Mindfulness bells throughout the day, a gentle reminder every few hours. 3 conscious breaths. Return to presence. Evening reflection before sleep. Review your day without judgment. What caused suffering today? What brought peace? Learn from your own experience. These practices seem almost too simple to matter. But here's what nobody tells you. They compound. Day 1, barely noticeable. Week 1, small shifts. Month 1, undeniable change. Year 1, you're a different person. The Dhammapada says, drop by drop is the water pot filled. Likewise, the wise person, gathering it little by little, fills themselves with good. The person who meditates daily and the person who doesn't are living in different mental landscapes. One reactive, constantly pulled by external events. One responsive, anchored in internal stability. Let's practice together right now. Close your eyes if you can. Bring your attention to your breath. Don't change it, just notice it. Feel the cool air as you breathe in. Feel the warm air as you breathe out. When your mind wanders, and it will, simply notice where it went and gently bring it back to the breath. No judgment, no frustration, just patient return, again and again. This is the practice. Simple, not easy, but transformative. Do this for 1 minute right now. Welcome back. In that 1 minute, you practiced being your own refuge. This is your inner sanctuary. Not a place you visit occasionally, but a practice you cultivate daily until it becomes who you are. Start today. 5 minutes. That's all. This is bhavana. This is the practice that makes you unshakable. She watches her brother make the same destructive choice for the 5th time. Quitting another job without a plan, moving in with another toxic partner, spending money he doesn't have on things that won't last. Every fiber of her being wants to intervene, to lecture, to fix, to save him from himself. But she's learned something that's changing everything. The Buddha taught 4 sublime states, 4 ways of relating to all beings that free you from suffering while keeping your heart open. We've explored metta, the cultivation of loving kindness. We've touched on upekkha, equanimity that loves without clinging. Now we come to mudita, a teaching so misunderstood that most people have never heard its true application. Mudita is usually translated as sympathetic joy, the ability to feel genuine happiness at others' success and good fortune. But the deeper teaching is this: mudita is finding peace with others' journeys, even when those journeys look nothing like the path you'd choose for them. Even when they're walking straight toward pain you can see coming. This isn't about celebrating their self-destruction. It's about releasing your stranglehold on how their life should unfold. There's a profound difference between giving up on someone and releasing them to their own path. Giving up says, I don't care anymore. You're on your own. I'm done. Mudita says, I care deeply and I honor that this is your journey to walk, not mine to control, direct, or prevent. I trust that even your mistakes are part of your learning. The woman watching her brother learned this through years of painful intervention. She'd rescued him from consequences countless times, paid his rent when he couldn't, let him move in when relationships failed, given advice that went unheeded, stayed up nights worrying about choices she couldn't change. Her therapist asked her one day, what if his path requires these struggles? What if preventing his consequences is actually preventing his growth? She wanted to argue. She wanted to say that love means protection, that family means never letting each other fall. But somewhere deep inside, she knew the truth. Her brother would keep making these choices until the lessons landed. And her suffering alongside him wasn't helping either of them. She started practicing mudita, not as celebration of his choices, but as releasing her grip on controlling his path. When he called with news of quitting his job, instead of panic and lectures, she took a breath and said, I hear you're making a big change. I trust you're doing what feels right for you. Inside, she was terrified, but she didn't make her terror his burden to carry. When he moved in with someone she could see was all wrong for him, Instead of warnings and predictions, she said, "I hope you find what you're looking for." And then, this was the hard part. She let go of the outcome. She stopped checking in constantly, stopped offering unsolicited advice, stopped running scenarios of disaster in her mind at 3 a.m. She practiced mudita. May you learn what you need to learn from this experience. May your path unfold as it needs to unfold. May you find your own wisdom through your own journey. 6 months later, her brother called. The job he quit without a plan, he'd started freelancing and discovered work he actually loved. The toxic partner, he'd left after 3 months, having finally seen patterns he'd been blind to before. "I know you thought I was making mistakes," he said, "but I needed to make them, and thank you for not trying to stop me." This is mudita, in practice with difficult people, releasing them to learn what only their own experience can teach them. The Buddha taught this not as cold indifference, but as wise compassion. You can care about someone without needing to control their journey. You can love someone while honoring their right to make choices you wouldn't make. You can wish someone well while letting them walk their own path, stumble on their own stones, learn their own lessons. This doesn't mean you enable harm or stay in abusive situations. It means you stop exhausting yourself trying to prevent grown adults from experiencing the consequences of their choices. Practice this when someone you love makes choices that terrify you. Take a breath and silently offer, "May your path unfold with whatever wisdom it needs to bring you. May you learn what you need to learn. I release my need to control how you get there." Notice the resistance. Notice the voice that says, "But if I just explain one more time," or "But if I just prevent this one consequence." And underneath that resistance, notice something else: relief. The relief of not having to manage another person's life along with your own. There was a mother whose adult son struggled with addiction. For years, she tried everything to save him, paid for rehab, offered her home, gave money, made excuses to his employer, absorbed his chaos into her life. Nothing worked because he wasn't ready. A Buddhist teacher taught her about mudita, and she thought it was the cruelest teaching she'd ever heard. How can I find peace with watching my son destroy himself? The teacher said gently, "Mudita doesn't mean you're happy he's suffering. It means you trust that his journey, even the painful parts, is his to walk. Your suffering with him doesn't ease his suffering. It just means 2 people are suffering instead of 1. The mother began practicing, "May you find your own path to healing. May you learn what you need to learn. I love you, and I release you to your journey." She stopped rescuing him from consequences. She stopped enabling his addiction by providing safety nets. She told him she loved him, and she'd be there when he was ready for real help, but she couldn't keep participating in his destruction. It was the hardest thing she'd ever done. Her son hit bottom, real bottom, the kind she'd been preventing for years. And from that bottom, he finally chose recovery. Not because she forced him, or saved him, or convinced him, but because he had to face himself without her intervention, creating a buffer between him and reality. Mudita freed her to love him without drowning in his chaos. And it freed him to find his own strength. This is the teaching. You can honor someone's journey without making it your own. You can wish them well without needing them to choose differently, so you can feel okay. Mudita says, "Your path is yours. My peace doesn't depend on you walking it the way I think you should." This is love that frees both people. The text message lands like a grenade. Your body knows before your mind catches up. Chest tightens. Breath becomes shallow. Thoughts start spinning into defensive spirals. This is the moment when most people lose themselves. But the Buddha offered something powerful for exactly this moment. A teaching he called Satipatthana, the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Not as abstract philosophy, but as anchors you can grab when someone's trying to pull you into their storm. These 4 foundations are your refuge when toxic people destabilize you. The first foundation is mindfulness of body, Kayanupassana. When someone attacks you verbally, criticizes you harshly, tries to manipulate you emotionally, your body responds first. Most people ignore these signals and go straight into their head, trying to formulate the perfect response while their nervous system is screaming. The Buddha taught, notice the body first. Right now, as you remember the last time someone disturbed your peace, notice what's happening in your body. Where do you feel tension? Your jaw? Your shoulders? Your stomach? Is your breath shallow or deep? Fast or slow? Are your hands clenched? Is your posture collapsed or rigid? This isn't self-indulgent navel-gazing. This is the first foundation that keeps you grounded when someone's trying to knock you off balance. When you notice your body's response to a toxic person, you've created space between their action and your reaction. A woman named Claire worked with someone who constantly undermined her in meetings. Subtle digs, dismissive comments, questions designed to make her look incompetent. For months, Claire tried to combat it intellectually. She prepared better. She rehearsed responses. She gathered more data to defend herself. None of it worked because she was operating from a dysregulated nervous system. By the time she tried to respond, she was already halfway to panic. Then she learned about Satipatthana. The next time her colleague made a cutting remark in a meeting, Claire did something different. Instead of immediately trying to respond, she brought attention to her body. She felt her chest tighten. She noticed her breath getting shallow. She observed her hands gripping the table. Just noticing, without trying to change anything yet. And in that noticing, something shifted. The panic couldn't fully take hold because she was watching it happen rather than becoming it. She took one deliberate breath, long inhale, longer exhale, and felt her system start to settle. Only then did she respond, and her words came from calm rather than defense. This is the power of the first foundation. It interrupts the automatic escalation from trigger to reaction. The second foundation is mindfulness of feelings, Vedananu-passana. Not emotions like anger or fear, but the underlying pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral tone of each moment. When a toxic person says something hurtful, notice, this feels unpleasant. Not they're terrible, or I'm hurt, or I need to defend myself. Just unpleasant feeling has arisen. This simple recognition prevents you from building a whole story on top of the feeling. The Buddha taught that suffering comes not from unpleasant feelings themselves, but from our reaction to them, the craving for them to stop, the aversion pushing them away. When you simply note unpleasant without adding layers of narrative, the feeling has less power. The third foundation is mindfulness of mind, Cittanupassana. Observing your mental state without getting swept into it. When someone provokes you, can you notice, this is a mind filled with anger rather than I am angry. The difference is subtle, but transformative. One identifies with the anger, you become it. The other observes the anger as a passing state, you witness it. A man named Robert had a family member who could trigger him into rage within minutes. Every holiday gathering, every phone call, the same patterns. Robert started practicing the third foundation. When his relatives said something inflammatory, instead of immediately defending or attacking, Robert silently noted, anger is present in the mind. Not, I'm furious, just anger is here. This small shift changed everything. The anger still arose. The Buddha never promised you'd stop feeling difficult emotions. But Robert wasn't possessed by it anymore. He could feel anger present while remaining stable enough to choose his response. The fourth foundation is mindfulness of mental objects, Dhammanupassana. Observing thoughts, beliefs, and patterns without getting tangled in them. When a toxic person activates your old wounds, can you see the thought, "I'm not good enough," arise without believing its truth? Can you notice, "This is the pattern where I try to prove my worth without acting it out"? These four foundations work together as a complete system of staying anchored when others try to destabilize you. Body. Notice the physical response. Feelings. Recognize pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. Mind. Observe your mental state. Mental objects. See thoughts and patterns without becoming them. This isn't about becoming a detached robot. It's about staying conscious when everything in you wants to react unconsciously. Practice this the next time someone disturbs your peace. Notice your body first. Where's the tension? Notice the feeling tone. Pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. Notice your mind state. Calm, agitated, confused. Notice the thoughts. What stories are forming? Just notice, without trying to change or fix. The noticing itself creates the space you need. The Buddha taught Satipatthana as the direct path to liberation. And part of that liberation is freedom from being controlled by others' toxicity. When you're anchored in these four foundations, people can't pull you into their chaos. Not because you're blocking them, but because you're rooted in awareness they can't shake. This is your unshakable ground. You're lying awake at 3 a.m., replaying the conversation for the 100th time. Should I have said something different? Is this my fault? Am I responsible for how they reacted? Should I fix this tomorrow? The questions spiral endlessly because you're using the wrong kind of attention. The Buddha taught something he considered foundational to all wisdom, yoniso manasikara, often translated as wise reflection or careful attention. But it's more specific than that. It's the ability to examine any situation and see clearly what's truly happening here. Not what your fear says is happening, not what your guilt insists is happening, but what is actually, objectively, genuinely happening. This final teaching is about discernment, the capacity to separate what's yours to carry from what belongs to others. Most people struggling with toxic relationships lack this discernment. They take responsibility for others' feelings, choices, and paths, while neglecting responsibility for their own peace, boundaries, and well-being. Yoniso manasikara teaches you to ask different questions. Not, how do I make them happy, but, is their happiness my responsibility? Not, how do I fix this, but, is this mine to fix? Not, what did I do wrong, but, what actually happened here? Let me show you what this looks like in practice. A woman named Elena had a mother who called daily with crises that Elena was expected to solve. Financial problems, relationship drama, health concerns that turned out to be minor, but were presented as emergencies. Elena spent hours every week managing her mother's life, feeling guilty when she didn't, resentful when she did. A therapist introduced her to Yoniso Manasikara, the practice of examining situations with wise reflection. After the next crisis call, instead of immediately problem solving, Elena sat down and asked herself different questions. What is actually happening here? Not what her mother claimed was happening, but reality. Her mother had overspent again and wanted Elena to loan her money. What is my actual responsibility in this situation? Elena sat with this one for a long time. She'd been trained since childhood to believe her mother's problems were hers to solve. But applying wise reflection, her mother was a capable adult who'd created this pattern through repeated choices. What happens if I don't intervene? Her mother would need to solve it herself, ask someone else, or face the consequences. None of which were Elena's responsibility to prevent. What is the wise action here? Not the action her guilt demanded, not the action her mother expected, but the wise action that honored both compassion and boundaries. Elena called her mother back and said, "I hear you're in a difficult situation. I'm not able to help financially. I trust you'll figure out what to do." Her mother was shocked, then angry, then tried guilt and manipulation. But Elena had already examined the situation with wise reflection. She knew what was actually happening, a pattern of dependency she'd been enabling. She knew her responsibility to herself, not to rescue her mother from consequences. This is Yoniso Manasikara, applied to toxic relationships. The Buddha taught that wrong attention, Ayoniso Manasikara, is the root of all suffering. We attend to things in distorted ways, seeing threats where there are none, taking responsibility for what isn't ours, missing what actually matters. Wise reflection cuts through the distortion. When someone tries to make their problem your problem, pause and reflect. Is this actually mine to carry? When someone blames you for their feelings, pause and reflect. Am I actually responsible for how they chose to react? When someone demands your time, energy, or peace, pause and reflect. What is the wise response that honors both compassion and self-respect. This isn't cold analysis. It's clarity that serves both people. A father learned this with his adult daughter, who constantly created drama and expected him to drop everything to manage her emotional crises. He loved her deeply, but was exhausted by the pattern. He started applying Yoniso Manasikara to each crisis call. What is actually happening? His daughter was upset and wanted him to fix her feelings. What is my responsibility? To love her, not to manage her emotions for her. What is the wise action? To listen with compassion, but not take on the work she needed to do herself. He began saying, "I hear you're really struggling. What do you think would help?" At first, she'd escalate. "You don't care. You're supposed to help me." But he'd already reflected wisely. He knew helping meant supporting her growth, not preventing her from developing her own emotional regulation. Over time, something shifted. His daughter started solving more of her own problems. She still called, but the conversations were different. She was processing, not demanding rescue. The relationship deepened because it was no longer based on her emotional dependence and his exhaustion. This is the final teaching, the wisdom to discern what's yours and what isn't. The Buddha said that Yoniso Manasikara is the foundation for all other practices. Without it, you're building on sand. With it, everything else becomes possible. Practice this today. When someone's behavior disturbs your peace, sit down and reflect with careful attention. What is actually happening here, beyond the emotional charge? What is my genuine responsibility in this situation? What is their responsibility that I might be taking on? What is the wise action that honors both compassion for them and respect for myself? These questions won't give you easy answers, but they'll give you clear ones. And clarity, seeing things as they truly are, is the beginning of all freedom. This is Yoniso Manasikara. This is wise reflection. This is how you finally stop carrying what was never yours to hold. We've walked together through 12 ancient teachings. Nothing is personal, just their mind reflected. Loving kindness protects through inner cultivation. Mindfulness of breathing creates space between stimulus and response. Right action includes boundaries as compassion. Clear seeing reveals others mirror their own suffering. Noble silence means your peace needs no defense. Right effort teaches you to choose battles wisely. Equanimity shows that distance can be medicine. Mental cultivation builds your daily sanctuary. Sympathetic joy frees you to honor others' paths. The 4 foundations of mindfulness anchor you when others destabilize you. Wise reflection discerns what's yours to carry. These aren't ideas to collect. They're tools to use, starting today. The Buddha said, "The mind is everything. What you think you become." Let's sit together one last time. Close your eyes. Hand on your heart. May I dwell in peace. May I be free from suffering. May I respond with wisdom, not reaction. May I protect my peace without guilt. May I love without losing myself. May all beings find peace. You're not alone. Right now, someone in Tokyo just finished listening. Someone in Sao Paulo is falling asleep to these words. Someone in Berlin is waking with new understanding. These teachings will be here whenever you need them. Waiting, patient, timeless. Your peace is already within you. May your journey be peaceful. May your heart be light. Breathe well, live well, be well. Thank you for walking this path with me. Peace be with you.